Hey guys, it's Abby. I'm back with another video, and today I will be doing my top 5 contemporary reads. And by top 5 I mean top 6 because I couldn't resist. I read so much contemporary. That is the main genre that I enjoy reading. And even though I've gotten super into sci-fi and fantasy lately, and that's kind of what I've been binging and reading a ton of, I still have a huge place in my heart for contemporaries, and I have some that I think are super underrated that people haven't even heard of, and a couple more that are definitely not underrated at all, but let's get into it. Also, can we just take a minute? If you guys watch The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, my shirt is freaking cool. It says, "Females are strong as hell." I love this shirt. So, anyways, back to whatever I was doing. I was ending this video. Alright. So I will start with one of the most popular young adult contemporaries, I think, for the last probably decade, because it came out God knows when, a long time ago. And that is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. And this was kind of the first YA contemporary that I read that was one that covered really heavy issues. You know, I had read like fluffy love stories, I'd read fantasy and dystopian, but this was one of the first ones that I read that, I mean, it had some really heavy stuff in it. Graphic content, talked about drugs, alcohol, sex, sexuality, you know, all these different types of things. And of course there's a movie for it, and I absolutely love that movie. I own it, and it is one of my all-time favorite films because it was so well done and directed by Stephen Chbosky, so it was very true to the novel. But this book is about a boy named Charlie, if you have not heard of it, and he writes letters to this person. We don't know who he's writing to, so it's an epistolary novel. It's told completely through letters. And Charlie is going into his first year of high school, and he is struggling, and feels awkward and weird and different, and he's dealt with a lot in his life, a lot of death and loss. He holds a lot of guilt in his heart, and it's about him meeting this group of older kids and getting to know them and learning from them and growing, and it follows parts of his family, and it's just a really beautiful story. And I just remember crying, and some of my favorite quotes in the entire world are from this book, and I just hold it really close to my heart. So this is definitely one of my top recommendations, especially if you're looking for like a really good quotable book or just very lyrical. It's beautifully written. The next one that I'm suggesting is like half contemporary, half not. It's not really contemporary, but I'm suggesting this one because if you enjoy contemporaries and don't really read sci-fi or fantasy, which I know isn't very prominent on BookTube, but that's kind of where I was at, this is like the perfect book because it integrates them, because it's magical realism. And that is The Love That Split the World by Emily Henry. I've talked about this book a lot. I've done a review on it, and I've mentioned it in hauls and wrap-ups and things like that. I absolutely love this book. Beautifully written, handles a bunch of different issues, super cool, a beautiful love story, and it's just so heartwarming and sweet, and it's written like a contemporary even though it's got these weird magical time travel aspects to it. And I know people have been calling it sci-fi, but I just don't feel that way about it. It's definitely magical realism to me. I highly, highly recommend this. This one has become my one of my top new favorite books in general, and so I definitely suggest this one, even though it's like a fantasy and contemporary hybrid. My next contemporary recommendation or favorite contemporary read would be Everything Leads to You by Nina LaCour. I loved this book, and for a handful of reasons. Not only is it very well written, but the main character is a lesbian, and it's not about her coming out. That is the biggest thing for me, is that I went into this book, first of all, not knowing that it was an LGBT read at all. And I opened it up and I was like, wow, that is amazing. That is so good, because it doesn't mention it on the inside of the flap. It's not about her coming out. She's already out. She's already accepted her sexuality. Everyone around her accepts it. It's fine. Nobody cares. That's the part that I love. Nobody cares that she's gay. And it's just about her meeting this girl and trying to solve this mystery of some like long lost uncle, dad, someone's long lost dad. And it's just a really good, you know, feel good. It's not like a road trip, but it's a journey that they go on together to try and figure this mystery out, and it's really sweet. And it's also a love story, and it does have like a little bit of, you know, struggling with sexuality for one of the characters, but not the main character, which is just something that I really appreciated. And I loved this book. I thought it was really sweet. I think people who don't normally read LGBT reads would enjoy it too, because it kind of gives you And I feel like it's not like everything is this big dramatic coming out story, which is something that you often find in literature that's about LGBT people. So I really appreciate this book and I highly suggest it. The next book that I recommend is Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. And everybody loves Colleen Hoover, but I don't hear people talking about this one very much. And I think it's because it's one of her earlier books. I love this book. I remember just being so enthralled with it. It was amazing because this was the first Colleen Hoover book I read, and I went in kind of expecting it to be fluffy. I mean, look at the cover. I expected it to be like this lame kind of new adult cliche romance, but wow, it follows some really heavy issues, and the love story was very raw, and it was more about her than it was about the love. I mean, a lot of it was about the love. She found the boy, and then everything else started happening to her, but it was about a lot of personal stuff in her life. It's very vague on the back of the book, so I'm not sure how much I don't know what's a spoiler and whatnot. But it follows a girl, Sky, and she's kind of floozy and kind of always, every time she's ever, made out with a guy, all that kind of stuff. She's in high school. She was homeschooled for a long time, but now she's in regular high school. And she doesn't feel anything when she does it, but she does it anyways just because it's the only time that she feels like her brain kind of shuts off. And then, of course, she meets this boy, and he's really intriguing, and she feels like she knows him, and she doesn't know how. And their lives become intertwined, and they're kind of solving this unraveling mystery of her life and who Sky is and who this boy is. And I was in love with the guy in this book. What's his name? Dean Holder. I thought he was just the dreamiest. I loved this book. And it got really emotional really fast, and it was kind of like I didn't expect it, so it kind of just jumped out of nowhere. And I'm going to stop talking about it because none of this is making sense to someone who hasn't read this book. I just really suggest it. I think Colleen Hoover's writing is really, really good. So if you are to read a Colleen Hoover, this is kind of the one I suggest. Now these next two books I don't hear a lot of people talking about, but they are two of my all-time favorite contemporary reads ever, and I absolutely adore them. And so the first one that I'm going to talk about is The Catastrophic History of You and Me by Jess Rothenberg. And this book, I don't know when this came out, so I think it's pretty old. 2013, I'm not sure. I haven't heard a lot about it, but it's got tons of reviews on the inside. I think, for her other books. I don't know. I've never read anything else by this author. I picked this up randomly at a bookstore in San Francisco like 3 years ago. More than 3 years ago. That was a long time ago. I don't remember, but it was a while ago. And it is about this girl. She literally dies of a broken heart, and then she is in limbo. So she's in between going off into the afterlife and the real world. So she's watching her family and watching what they're like, and it's kind of like this limbo area. There's like a diner, and that's kind of where everybody who's in limbo hangs out. Of course, there's this dreamy boy in a leather jacket. He's kind of like a badass. He's definitely a cliche character, but I had so much fun with him that I didn't even mind. And he helps guide her through kind of what she's going through, trying to let go of the things that she's dealing with, not to let the grief that her family is dealing with hurt her, because everything happens for a reason, yada yada yada. So she has to go through the 7 stages of grief in order to move on to the afterlife. So you kind of see her go through each one, like anger and denial and things like that. And I just loved the way this was set up. Each chapter is a song title, which I think is so, so cute. And then the very back of the book, it has the songs and then who sings them. So it's kind of like you've got this playlist to go along with it. And I just think it's so fun. This was just a really fun contemporary, but it also handles a really heavy topic such as death and, what happens after you die and, dealing with grief. And I thought this was really, really, really well done. I love this book. I highly suggest this one. So this next book, I haven't read it in a very long time, so I don't particularly remember everything about it, so bear with me. But I loved this book, and this is one that I'd love to reread soon. So, and that is Gelco Road by Melanie Marchetta. And this book follows a girl who goes to this boarding school, and in this town, things are really kind of strange. It's like there's the townies and there's wars and there's this like underground society that you meet up with, and she becomes like the president of this underground society because they have a territory war with the townies and the boarding school kids, which I thought was kind of really cool and interesting to read about. And so it's the townies and the cadets, and so she gets really, really attracted to one of these cadets, and it's kind of like she has this interesting pull to him, and a lot of mysterious things happen. And then she doesn't have a mother in her life, so the one adult who she genuinely cares about and shares things with disappears, and she is trying to figure out where this important person to her has gone, and a lot of secrets get unraveled and a lot of stuff happens. And I really loved this book because it was so mysterious, and I almost didn't pick it up because I was like kind of confused by the back. I didn't really understand what was going on, but the writing was gorgeous and eerie, and really just like the way it's written, it's a quick read because of the margins are so big, but with the margins being that big, it felt almost like reading poetry, which was interesting. And I just, oh, this book blew my mind. I remember getting to the end and I was just like, what? Because it's one of those books where you have no idea what's going to happen until the end. At least that's how it was for me. Maybe I'm oblivious and can't predict things, but I had no idea what was going to happen. And I really don't remember what happened, so I really want to reread this one and experience it again. But I really suggest it because the writing is just unbelievable. And I love contemporaries that are kind of mysteries where they have to find this missing person, or they have to like avenge someone's like some sort of crime. And I just love those kinds of contemporaries where you've got the romance, but you've also got all these other things that are involved in it, and I really like that. So those are my top 6 contemporary reads / recommendations. These are some of my favorites. I mean, there's so many others that I read that I couldn't even remember to put in this, so definitely pick up these books if you're looking for a good contemporary. I loved them. Let me know if you guys have read any of these or if you're planning on reading any of them, because I absolutely love them and I'd love to hear your thoughts on them. I hope you guys liked this video. I need to sneeze. It is not happening. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to, and I will see you guys in my next video.